My name is Chiara Cristina Ventura. Welcome to the AW Classroom podcast, where we interview artists and movers and shakers of the art world of color. And today we're sitting here with Xime Izquierdo Ugaz, and they are an artist, and they also have beautiful exhibition, online exhibition with El Museo del Barrio. So we're going to be focusing on their solo exhibition and also just the radical work that they're doing today. So Xime, can you briefly introduce yourself and just talk about what you do?
Thank you, Chiara. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be in this virtual space with you. My name is Xime. I am an artist. I'm a writer. I do a lot of different things. I'm also really getting into language justice right now, so that's something that's really important to me. And I also I'm currently living in Peru, so that's where I am right now in my home in Lima. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. And in the past few years, I've been doing a lot of photographing and archiving as well.
Mm. So I know you have a show up with El Museo. Can you talk about these beautiful photographs? And I know that you're also focusing on your chosen family. And I love the write-up that you did that introduces the show, and you talked about your mom not allowing your friends to be in your room, and you guys had to be in the living room, and I guess the ideas of sacred space. Can you talk about, I guess, that moment in childhood and how you connected to the photographs you took for the show?
Yeah, it's interesting actually. The day after the launch of this project, I just feel like I grew up in a very unsupportive home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to put it in the most like basic like understandings of it for me. And I feel like for a long time, and even now, in a lot of ways, I've been searching to create my own family because I haven't felt safe in mine, in my blood family for ever or for a long time. And yeah, I feel like I was having a really hard time writing about the project, like writing like the text for the project. I literally had like writer's block for like over a month. And one night it just like I just started thinking about that, like about my relationship to my mom and her relationship to what she considers sacred, as different from how I feel about it, you know. And I feel like, yeah, growing up in a home where there wasn't a lot of space to just like be yourself, express yourself. I feel like I grew up around a lot of like me, like my mom. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
for example, like, I started stealing a lot when I was a tween.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I still steal. Like I don't. I look at it. I don't look at it as a, like a. I don't know. I have a lot of feelings
Mhm.
about stealing, actually,
Yeah.
but I started stealing as a tween because I like was searching to be able to express myself as a way that I saw myself in my head, you know, and in
Mm.
and I didn't have that with what my mom was able to offer me
Mm.
or allow me, I guess.
Are you talking specifically like about like clothing items, or like, yeah, just things you would wear to like express yourself?
Yeah, I think definitely
Mm-hmm.
part of it because like in my understandings of like my gender as an identity, like as a kid, like
Mm-hmm.
that was like a big part of understanding how to like show that and how to show on the outside what I felt on the inside, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I literally, it's crazy. Like in middle school, for example, I used to go to school dressed one way and like literally run straight to the bathroom and change into my stolen clothes, and then do the same thing before going back home that day. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it just I was just reflecting a lot on that experience of that being my experience of my home, and and yeah, like what that has meant for me in terms of like how I've sought out family in different ways.
Yeah, and I love how you also talked about your chosen family. They gave you a love that you wasn't ready for or something like that. And I was just like, wow, that's so beautiful to, I guess, come to people that just fully accept you like for who you are. I also wanted to ask, yeah, who are these people in these beautiful portraits, and how did you go about taking the photos? Like, were you just hanging out with them and then you just like snap the photo? Was it like planned? How was that like photo taking process for you?
Cool. Thank you for that question. So yeah, these folks are just like my family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some I've known for like over 10 years, some I've known for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly feel like when I meet someone that I know I'm going to choose, like I feel like I literally feel like when I say chosen family, I also mean like I literally chose you. Like I'm choosing you to
Mm-hmm.
be part of my family. Like
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, I feel like sometimes it doesn't I don't need to have known someone for like many years to understand that feeling and honor it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, like I say that to say like that there are folks in there that I might have known for a long, long time and folks that I might know for a few months and that I
Mm-hmm.
still feel that way about them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the portraits are literally just like, yeah, us hanging out, like just being in space with each other. Like I feel like it's so important to like just document like queer intimacy and like just existing because so much of like especially for queer and trans like folks of color like yeah if you think about it like right now I feel like we're very visible in terms of media, but
Mm-hmm.
it it doesn't stop the fact that like this world hates us and
Mm-hmm.
like is antagonist towards us and like a lot of the images you see of trans folks, especially like trans women, especially trans black women, like are are like when they're dead. And so yeah, it was like how can we create an archive of us like while we're alive and like while we're just like existing in our fullest selves, in our most comfortable selves, like when we're just in space with each other, not like trying to do something else, you know? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, most of the portraits are literally just, it's funny, actually, one of the sitters, Madrine, who's one of a really good friend of mine, she recently was like, it's crazy that hanging out in community became a whole museum show. Like, who would have we were just laughing about that, but it's like, yeah, like I literally see these people as like they're gorgeous, like they're models, you know, and like they don't have to do anything to do that. Like they could just wake up and be looking incredible, you know. And so I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to really celebrate that beauty because I'm like, oh my god, I'm surrounded by this like beauty, and it's wild to me. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
grateful. And then there's a few portraits that are like part of shoots like from our own like little businesses, you know, like my
Right.
choker business or like someone's like
Mm-hmm.
fashion thing that we're like, okay, let's do a shoot for it. um
Nice.
but it still feels very intimate in the same ways because it's literally just us like giving love to each other like and supporting each other in what we do. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's kind of like how it's. And also I think one
Mm-hmm.
really important part is that I use a 35 millimeter camera and it's very small.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Fuji Natura and it's literally like this big.
Yeah.
And I think that also allows for people to just feel like calm because sometimes when we're approached with like lights and like big camera and that like a whole team,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very different experience, you know, than
Yeah.
just oh, can I take your photograph and we're just
Mm-hmm. And it's not so like planned. Like you don't have to be like, oh, let me pick myself up. Like it's kind of just like, all right. I also, yeah, I think that also speaks to agency because it's not like they're doing a photo shoot for some magazine and the magazine hires a photographer, and a lot of times, especially in fashion magazines, the photographer is a white man or a white woman, and then they use that image for their work for the magazine. And like I think this project speaks to agency of queer people, just like you as a queer person photographing someone that you know, so you know what their boundaries are, you know what their energy is, and you're taking it from your lens. I also love how in the captions the caption is written by the person in the photo, right? So what made you think of doing that?
Yeah, so that was really important to me. In general, it was really important for me for this like project to feel collective, because I feel like I'm not just one, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I guess going back to you asking me about like the part where I write about like receiving love that I wasn't always ready for, like yeah, like I'm held. I am held.
Mm-hmm.
And I honor that. But yeah, I feel like as you were just describing, like so many of these shoots, so many of these interviews, like these things, like there's a lot of extraction from our community, from folks who are not from that community, and often like our words or our image are used for as an angle for something, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that can feel really like that is really traumatic, I guess, to put it in simple ways. Like it's very traumatic to be taken from and used in ways. And so I was like really I wanted to do my best to be like as responsible as I could with like yeah, like working with these images of my family, because that is a real feeling. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking like, yeah, what is a way to include everyone's voices so that if it feels like these also are like coming from the first person and not just from me telling you about this person, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
that person can do that for themselves. And I my friend Cristobal Guerra, who's a really incredible artist, writer, like all around amazing being, who's also in the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
supported me a lot through this project in terms of like just helping me like to think through it.
Mm-hmm.
Together, they helped me arrive at this prompt. And so what I did was that I asked all the folks whose portraits are in the web to respond to the prompt. How would you describe the person in this portrait? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's literally me asking them to reflect on, yeah, who is that person? That, I mean, it's you, but
Yeah.
like in that moment in time, like who was that person? Like what was going on for them? Yeah, like what, when you look at this portrait of yourself, like what are you seeing? I was just like, I mean, not surprised, because of course I know how incredible everyone that's around me is, but just like floored by like like the depth and like the vulnerability of the responses, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and like, folks trusting me with that. So I just felt really grateful, because yeah, like it's important to be able to hear our stories from ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
not like through a bunch of filters, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, and even like reading the caption, I love how transparent they were. Like some people were like, that person maybe wasn't feeling their best that day and like, is in their journey and is figuring things out and other things. And then other people were like, that person in that photo is that bitch. Like, go off. So I just love how it's like there's such like a spectrum of like responses of like how they see themselves, but at the end of the day it was like coming from like a very honest and like transparent place, which is so true because sometimes like we see photos of ourselves and some days we're like, I don't know how I feel, going through it is okay, is another day, and then the next day, like for me today I was like, I'm that bitch. So yeah. I think it's super important to, and I love it. It's just like that act of like literally like passing the mic and being like, how do you see yourself? And it's important to reflect on that and take that in. So I want to switch gears a little bit because I know you're in Peru and you've been there for some time. Can you tell me just like about, what it's like to be living there right now? What is going on? What is the work that you're doing? Because I know you're doing also a lot of community work. Can you just tell us about that?
For sure. I am very grateful to be here. I feel like my decision to return to my home, and I say home in like a very complicated way, because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I have a lot of questions about what is home. Of
Exactly.
course, like, as someone who was displaced from here at like the age of 8, 9, like to come back 20 years later is like it's a lot. I feel like I'm processing a lot of emotions, but I'm grateful, yeah, to be here. Like to be kind of like have been given or have given myself the opportunity to um start over in some ways, you know? Not totally, because I don't think I can start over in a place that I'm already from.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are a lot of ways in which I was able to start on a new page, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way to
Mm-hmm.
think about it. There's a lot happening here. The pandemic has definitely like hit us really hard. Our healthcare system is not set up to take any of this at all. At the beginning of the pandemic, we had like 200 ICU beds, like I think in the whole country, or maybe like I don't know, something like a really small number.
Crazy.
Like,
Yeah.
we are not gonna be able to survive this, you know?
Like not prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, like, just not prepared at all. And so it's been difficult. And I actually came here supposedly to get my master's. I remember telling you about this. My master's
Mm-hmm.
practices, and I had to drop out because I just like I couldn't. First of all, like I decided that I needed to focus on being able to pay for my home first, like just like as a basic need and like for my mental health,
Yeah.
then to pay for school. And also like it was really hard to focus on talking about our history when like my community members were really struggling to just meet their basic needs, you know, like my queer and trans like folks here in my community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I started this festival. It's called
Mm-hmm.
Existiendo en Cuarentena. And yeah, it's a festival that was started as a way to support each other. And it was actually really inspired because I participated in Bufu's Cloud9 festival, which happened like really early on the quarantine. And I did a workshop in that festival, and I was like really inspired to like, yeah, like we can do that here. Like there's so much talent in Peru, and like I feel like there's not often like abilities to connect like across borders, and the quarantine and the pandemic like really dissolved meant a lot of that, a lot of those like fake borders, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been really beautiful to not only like create a space for like creative folks here to like showcase and like share and like just be in space with each other throughout like the isolation, but also like fundraise for folks like through that platform, right? So I've been doing a lot of fundraising. I'm sure you've seen me like on my
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and it's been really beautiful because honestly like the money's out there. People just need to like release like the wealth that they don't like need,
Mm. Exactly. Exactly.
because folks really need it. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that's been a little bit of. I'm also like I'm trying to get a little more involved like politically. I've been supporting a friend who is running for or trying to run for Congress here, and she's
Mm-hmm.
like the first indigenous trans woman to run for
Wow.
Congress.
That's
And
beautiful.
it's
Wow.
amazing. And if she makes it, it would just be like I just can't imagine, and I want to, and I'm imagining it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like I think the reality for queer and trans folks here is like really difficult. You know, like we live in a country where we don't even have like a gender identity law, so you can't have your name, like you can't just have your chosen name on your ID, like
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to make those changes, like actually, there's some folks who have their names on their ID that are not like what they were born, the names that were like given at birth, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like they have to go through a whole psychological like exam to like even be able to. It's like
That is
yeah,
that's traumatic. That's
yeah.
traumatic. Yeah.
So I feel like yeah, we're fighting for basic things, but it also feels
Mm.
important to be here, like supporting folks who have been already doing that work and like are
Yeah.
just amazing leaders. So I'm just like in the in the back, just like I'm here like for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's beautiful that you're organizing over there and also using your network here to support over there, you know, and everything that's going on. Yeah, I think that is a beautiful thing about the pandemic is that all the organizers we're just like, all right, if we can't organize in person, we're going to do this online. And it is nice because we have more of like an outreach to people that may not have the accessibility. Maybe they're across the sea to come and join like our events or support what we do and listen. Now it's more so like a bigger net, and your voice could be a little
Also,
bit
like,
more louder.
yeah, and it's like it could have always been this way, and it should have always been this way,
Mm-hmm.
But this experience pushed us here finally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So speaking of making our voices louder, so I know that Hyperallergic recently released an article about how the Brooklyn Museum is mistreating their staff, especially the workers of color. Can you speak about that? Because I know that you were a part of those people that spoke out. Can you just tell us about what was happening and why? And I think that's the thing. I love how there's a movement of people speaking out against institutions, because I feel like a lot of the times when we work there, it's about coming in, doing your job, not really saying much, because of course you want to keep your job, and you don't want anything crazy to happen. But a lot of institutions are getting called out, and that's the only way that we can reform and bring in more voices that they need and distribute funds where it needs to go. Yeah, can you speak more about what was happening and all the mistreatment that was going on?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, they need us. Like, what would they do without us, honestly? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I actually think it's all connected because, as I was talking about earlier, like, I feel like our community is extracted from so much, and it's no different in an institution like a museum. And basically, so Valentina wrote this article, and in talking to her, like, I started reflecting a lot on, like, yeah, like how much extraction I had experienced in that place, and how traumatic that is, because it literally makes it hard to trust people, especially in a work setting. And so I, like, first of all need to, like, shout out and
Mm-hmm.
cite Shaidra Labouviere, who, like, has, like, yeah, like, led a lot of this and, like, pushed a lot of people to, like, break the silence, because she's the curator who curated a basket exhibit at the Guggenheim last year. Yeah, I think it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
Who, like, publicly called out the Guggenheim, and to the silence of many in the field. And, like, yeah, her work is extremely important, and I just need to, like enunciate her name.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think she really also, like, invigorated folks to start doing that work, because yeah, like, I honestly felt very nervous about talking about this publicly. But I also, like, the one thing I kept telling myself was, like, this happened.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, like, we can argue about all the different ways in which this was done, but, like, this is an actual thing that happened. And so, like, that is unarguable. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like, it happens all the time. And so it's really painful to be taken from, um, and not acknowledge, and then see other folks, usually white, be celebrated for your research or your ideas or your creativity.
Yep.
And that's a bit about what I talked to. I mean, there's so many experiences that we could talk about. I mean, you've also
Yeah.
emailed. Um,
Yeah.
like, you literally know. And I think what's most frustrating for the people who spoke out, and for the folks that are currently working there too, is like, yeah, that this museum often paints itself as, like, the most woke or whatever of the museum,
Diverse. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
while all this violence is happening on the inside. And so it's very frustrating, and just, like, not painting a real picture of what is happening. But there's definitely incredible people still working there who have for years been, like, trying to push for this work. But I think it's important for us to use all the strategies. And I was talking to my friend and a current worker there about this, and they were saying the same thing. Like, yeah, like we need to use all the strategies because
Yeah.
like we really want to like continue seeing museums as like a viable place to like just exist and like share and like view art and be transformed together. Like
Yeah.
that can happen without us acknowledging that this shit is violent as fuck. Like
Yeah.
it's violent, you know? And so this article came out and I was like real nervous about it. And like then the folks, so in the article I talk about how me and another friend and coworker at the time during the planning of Radical Women, Latin American
Oh my
artists,
God.
um,
Mm-hmm.
like we spoke out because during the presentations, like it was like the artists in the show are like mostly white women, like white
Mm.
Latin American women,
Yeah.
um, and that's just like, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and also the fact that it's like Brooklyn, you know, like it's
Yeah.
just like it felt disrespectful to not include Caribbean artists.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we spoke out about it, and we were basically asked to come up with a list of women of color artists. And mind you, like neither of us worked in curatorial. Like
That
we
is
were just
research. That's a lot of research.
that
That's
is
a
a
lot of, you need like a library and
yeah.
resources to do that. Okay.
So
Yeah.
we did this work because you know, like I talk about this a little too. Like sometimes we do this work because it feels like if we don't do it, no one else will do it, and
Yeah.
then it's like, and then it sucks to just sit
Mm-hmm.
an exhibition that you know could have had a different outcome.
Exactly.
But you're also running the risk of like that experience, you know. And so
Mm-hmm.
and we did the work. We looked up a list of artists. We made an Excel sheet. We like etc. We shared
Yeah.
our research, and a few of the artists that we like researched were then brought into the exhibition.
Wow. That's
And
powerful. That's super powerful.
yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
I forget to think about that too, you know. But because
Mm-hmm.
the whole experience was so like frustrating, because then like yeah, there was never any credit given to us. There was never even a shout out. There was like, and there are
Yeah.
so many opportunities to do that. That's the
Yeah.
thing. You know, like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not that, I don't think it's that difficult, but and like that's why I think it's not even about the people. It's about the structures and like
Yeah.
the ways in which we think these like that these like the norms of how we
Yeah.
think it's easy to be. You know, like the
Yeah.
way the academy functions, the way like curatorial work functions, like and
Exactly.
not questioning that that's not that it's just not right. You know. Um,
Exactly.
but anyway, throughout this whole process, like the article came out, and I was actually reached out to by the curator of the exhibition. One of the curators,
Mm-hmm.
reached out to me to formally apologize
Yeah.
for being taken from in those ways,
Mm-hmm.
and to say to kind of like tell us like what are the ways in which she personally is going to like use her voice to like make this change structural so that this kind of thing doesn't continue to happen, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel a lot of hope because I feel like, you know, like it's not even about calling people out. It's about like acknowledging that these things are continuing to happen all the time and are just not right.
Yeah.
If we don't talk about them, like if we don't just like let it out and air out, like
Yeah.
how can we ever like heal it, you know,
Yeah.
and then build like on what like needs to be like the actual process, you know. And so
Exactly.
I'm very grateful for that. And like she's also offered some forms of repair, which me and my friend who was is the other
Mm-hmm.
person who worked on this with me are
Yeah.
currently like revising and figuring out like what way to go. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I feel like it's the fucking apocalypse, bitch. Like literally that, like it's the fucking apocalypse, and that means
Yeah.
everything needs to come out. Like
Exactly.
yeah, so that we can then like sort through it and like
Mm-hmm.
you like it's not
Well,
you.
let me say a story of why that work is super important, especially within the Latinx diaspora, right? Because even for me, right, went to NYU, studied art history, learned Western art history there. I did not learn art history. I learned Western art history. So me as a young Latina person is also trying to find my stories within art history, right? Then I go to a show like that, beautiful show. I did appreciate it because, you know, for a lot of us, we think of Frida Kahlo. Beautiful, love Frida Kahlo, but what else do we got? You know, it needs to be more diverse than Frida Kahlo, right? So I saw that show and I was like, great. And then I also started teaching art history classes on my own. And I really, till this day, still, you know, I do want to teach a class on, you know, Latinx artists. But of course, I want to focus on artists of color. I want to focus on Indigenous and Black artists. And then I look at that show, I refer to that show for research. And like the only Black artist I found was Victoria Santa Cruz. And I was just like, who's a beautiful, and like, and if it wasn't for that show, I would have not known about that artist. But this is why, but there was so many artists in that show. So it's like, this is why like institutions are super important, and the voices that they include are super important, because a lot of us, like people like me in the art world, are looking to see ourselves in the work, but we're also looking to source information from these places and use it as a resource so we could spread the information to other people, so these stories can live on. So it's just like, yeah, well, thank you for doing that research. And yeah, it just speaks to just like the importance of institutions, and also why they need to do their research and like do their job in an appropriate way so that all voices are included, especially Black and Indigenous voices.
And I feel like that's why citation is so important, because it's like often these institutions are looked to and people are like, why are the people of color working on these exhibitions? But like we're there, we're just not cited, you know? So it's like, yeah, like it looks like a bunch of, yeah, like it just looks like it's like folks who are removed from this like cultural identity or whatever, like put this together, but also like there were folks in the back like doing important research to like bring this show to what it was, and it just wasn't like enunciated, you know? And it's so simple to just enunciate.
Exactly.
And it only and it only like makes things better, you know, because then we're able to like,
Exactly.
oh, wow, like this work is important, and like how did it take place? Like that is like, I think, crucial.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna close off soon, but I do want to open the floor. Would you like to tell us what you're working on now? What's up next? Just where you're at right now, and let everyone know what you're doing.
Cool. The folks who know me, they know that I'm always doing like 500 things at once. I've just like learned to harness it and like appreciate it and honor it. But yeah, right now I'm organizing two festivals. One is called Soñando Mojado, Wet Dreaming, which is a collaboration between Cabitas Existiendo in Peru and In Honor of Her Roots, which is based in New York.
Hey.
Yes, it's so cute, and we collaborate.
Shout out to Morena.
Shout out to one of the other folks working on it with me from Peru. And it's a festival. It's gonna be like a 4-day festival. Supposedly next week. We'll see. But it's like literally centering like Black and brown queer pleasure, like sex work, and we have incredible like proposals. I'm so excited. There's gonna be workshops, a party, performances. So I'm very excited about that. And then on October 10th, I'm also co-organizing the Next Body Hack, which is a party for trans and non-binary folks. And this year it became virtual, and on October 10th we're doing like a telethon-esque event, like a 12-hour event with a lot of different artists, like a lot of different workshops, and it's a party to benefit 11 different fundraisers across the Americas for trans folks of color.
Wow.
And also just like, trying to talk more about this project, Sé que fue así porque estuve allí. That's been like really important to me. My next goal is to make a book, so I'm like putting it out into the universe. I would really love to. There's like, that's only 40 portraits. Like there's hundreds of portraits actually that I would just love for them to be like in the book. I feel like a book would be really beautiful. So that's like my next like thing I'm working towards, and yeah, just doing a lot of writing. I'm currently writing an essay for Color Block, which is
Nice.
gonna come out this year, I think. So yeah, that's like a little bit of what I'm working on, and
Yeah.
also just working on myself. That part, just
Yep.
like working on myself, listening to myself, trusting myself, like not allowing, yeah, folks to like keep me from being my fullest self, to put it in.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much. I just have to say I'm proud of you. I just like, and I haven't seen you in a while, but no,
Yeah,
I see you living your truth. And I just love how you're also like uplifting your community in such a beautiful way, in such an honest way. And just thank you for all the work that you do. And you all the way in Peru, and I see you. So yeah, thank you.
love that. So that means a lot to me. I'm so happy to connect with you. And
Yes.
you nice time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Also, hi Pup. I see you there. I miss seeing you, Pup.
Alrighty, on that note, we will close off. Thank you guys for tuning in to AW Classroom Podcast. And make sure to follow Xime at what's your Instagram?
It's Wakatay.
Yes. I'll put everything in the description so you can follow their work. All right, till next time.